And we keep it rolling on a Friday afternoon. Welcome back to the Krug Show. Larry Kruger with you. Of course, we're brought to you by Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them that Larry Kruger sent you. The brisket, amazing. The brisket chili, equally amazing. Go check them out. We're also brought to you by Marin Auto Glass. MarinAutoGlass.com, Underdog Fantasy. Check that link in the description. Use the promo code KRUG, K-R-U-E-G, and they'll match you up to your first $100. And our newest sponsor, Sharp Corner Sports Cards and Collectibles in Monterey. If you're a sports card enthusiast, you'll love them. Anthony Catania is the owner there. Give him a call, 831-521-5264. And they're doing a special thing every first Friday of every month through the summer months where they're going to have food and drink, and you can bring your collectibles, and it's really cool. So check him out and give Anthony Catania a call. Well, we're going to talk little Niners. The draft coming up a week from yesterday is day one of the draft, and Matt Barrows is here from The Athletic. He's got his draft crush, and we linked his Draft Crush article in the description, so all of you guys can check that out. Matty, how are you, man? Good to see you.
Yeah, good to see you, Larry. It's always good to talk draft with you around this time of year. This is an annual occurrence, I think.
Well, exactly, and your Draft Crush. I didn't realize you have done so many years of it. I got to the bottom of the article, and I'm like looking at all the different years of the Draft Crush. This has gone on for almost a decade now, huh?
Yeah, no, I think it's almost 2 decades now.
Oh, is it really?
It goes back to 2008. Yeah, I remember going to the Senior Bowl that year and watching Carl Nix and talking to Scott McLuhan about Carl Nix, and McLuhan loved Carl Nix. And I just that was the inception of Draft Crush. Carl Nix was your first. You never forget your first.
You never forget your first crush.
And he ended up being a worthy crush because I think they had a late pick that year. That's the Kentwan Balmer year. So the 49ers picked Kentwan Balmer.
Wow.
Barrows picked Carl Nix. I'm pretty sure I won that one hands down. That was a rout, as it were.
Who is the greatest draft crush in the history of your draft crushes?
Well, I picked Von Miller, and you think, oh, well.
You should have quit then.
Everybody picked Von Miller. But, Von Miller had some not red flags, but not everybody was sold on Von Miller. I mean, he was sort of an undersized, lightish edge rusher. And I don't think anybody thought he was going to be the guy that he turned out to be. And people have been searching for Von Miller ever since. I mean, sort of this really bendy, quick off the edge pass rusher. It's hard to find one of those types of guys that also has some pop in his hands. That's got power. So that was an elusive one, but that's probably my best player and the one that I'm most proud of.
He's a future Hall of Famer. The other one I thought was really good was Darnell Savage, who's had a really, really nice career with the Packers, and then he just left the Packers this year in free agency. So, Matty, reveal the 2024 draft crush for people who haven't read the article yet, and everybody should. As I said, I linked it in there. It's also, if you're a member of The Athletic and you're getting all of Matt and Dave's stuff on the Niners, Matty does an incredible job for The Athletic. Sign up now if you haven't already. Who is the 2024 Matt Barrows draft crush?
Well, let me just preface this by saying you try to match Draft Crush up with where they're picking, where they had their first pick. The Darnell Savage one was the exception because everybody knew that they were going to pick Bosa that year. So I went with a second round crush. But usually you pick somebody who you think can make it to 31 or to wherever the 49ers first pick is. Last year, for example, they didn't pick until the third. And I went with that Penn State tight end, and I can't even remember his name right now. Brenton something.
Strange.
Strange, like yeah. I think the Trent Baalke's ended up picking him in Jacksonville. But this year's draft crush is Adonai Mitchell, a wide receiver from Texas. And I just think that when Kyle Shanahan puts on the tape of this guy running routes, he says, "Okay, that's the exact type of guy that I want." So if he can make it that far, and that's a bit of an if, I think that I think Shanahan would have a hard time not snatching him up there at pick 31.
He's a great story too. He started at Georgia. He was a heavily recruited player, and then he has a baby girl, and I think his baby girl was living in the Austin area. And so after he won a couple national championships, and he told Kirby, "Hey, you know what? I want to transfer to Texas so I can be near my daughter." And then the ESPN did a whole piece on it, and it's kind of a cool little story. But Mitchell is a really interesting player because he's a receiver. He's tall. He's athletic. He can jump. He tested well. He's a productive player. And there's a lot of talk that if the Niners don't take him at 31, maybe the Chiefs might take him on the very next pick at 32. So if they don't draft him, they may have to go against him in a Super Bowl in the future. How likely do you think it is that the Niners go wide receiver? And what do you make of all of the Aiyuk stuff? Is it just talk? I mean, you're a veteran. You've been through this. You don't get easily duped. Is the Aiyuk stuff much ado about nothing? His agents going off, his denying reports. Aiyuk himself is contacting Mike Tomlin. There's reports of interest from several clubs, including Jacksonville and Pittsburgh, most specifically. What's your read on wide receiver overall, and I guess Aiyuk?
Well, I think that they're going to take at least one wide receiver. I mean, if you look at the people who have come in and visited the 49ers, which is usually a really good indication of who they're going to take, there are a lot of wide receivers on that list. And I think it probably starts in the second round. Malachi Corley is one of them. A couple of mid-round guys, Javon Baker, he'd be a really interesting one. UCF, Central Florida. Maybe about 4 or 5 altogether. So I think that that's a position they're definitely looking at. And I think that's largely based on the fact that I'm not sure they've got anybody that they really love in the pipeline. So that, right now, and I think that the Brandon Aiyuk deal gets done, and I'll talk more about that in a second. But as it stands right now, he's not signed for next season. Juwan Jennings isn't signed for next season. And Deebo Samuel has a contract that's written in a way that would allow the 49ers to get out of it. So I think those 3 guys are going to be intact for 2024, the return to the Super Bowl push. But I think next year it's really fuzzy about who's going to be here. So that's why an Adonai Mitchell, I think, would make a lot of sense to this team. Because you would have him on a 5th-year option. So you'd have him for 5 seasons. You would have your triumvirate, your Jennings, Deebo Samuel, and Aiyuk all together this year while Mitchell is going through that rookie year phase that every 49ers wide receiver has to go through, which is learning how to play for Kyle Shanahan, the exactness that Kyle Shanahan demands for the position. And that's a big question about whether, I think that should be a big question for any wide receiver that they take. Can you kind of sort of handle the mental demands that Shanahan is putting on you? So, I mean, I think that's why it's a good idea. I think the Aiyuk stuff is exactly like the Deebo Samuel stuff from 2 years ago, almost exactly, right down to unfollowing the team on social media. And if it continues to play out that way, the 49ers will get a couple of offers during the draft, and they will sort of scoff at all of them. I think they'll pick up the phone and listen, but unless it's something that blows them away, very, very hard to see them parting ways with Brandon Aiyuk.
Now, when your contract comes to an end at The Athletic, do you unfollow Kawakami and Lombardi and all the people at The Athletic? Do you kind of fall in line in that And
That's the go-to move. I try to be as passive aggressive as possible.
don't answer your cell phone. You make yourself scarce.
Yeah. I text the president of ESPN. I say, "Hey, we're both bald. How about that? Isn't that funny?" So yeah, that's the way you do it these days. You kind of make things uncomfortable for everybody and see if anything falls out of the tree.
What do you make though of Ayuk contacting, I mean, is this all, do you think it's an effective thing? I mean, and I guess the question also is, what number do you think it settles on? Do you think the Niners have a number and they won't go beyond that number? And because Ayuk clearly is trying to maximize, Ian Rappaport said, hey, he's going to wait till the end of the signing period. He's going to wait till all the other receivers sign and try to, get as much as he can. Do you think the Niners want him back at any figure, or is it just like, you know what, if it gets beyond our means, they're going to pull the plug?
Yeah. I mean, if it ever got that way, I mean, they do have leverage once we get to training camp, where Ayuk gets fined for every day that he misses. Now, the 49ers have sort of done themselves a disservice by sort of forgiving Nick Bosa missing all of training camp last year. They don't want that with Brandon Aiyuk. Yeah, and I don't think it ever gets that far. Like I said, it feels like the Deebo Samuel situation was way more uncomfortable 2 years ago than this is now, and that deal eventually got done. And I would say that Deebo Samuel was coming off an even better year than Brandon Aiyuk was this last season. I mean, Deebo Samuel took the league by storm. He was one of the top 3 players in the league in 2022, or in 2021. Sorry. Brandon Aiyuk had a fantastic season, but I don't know if you would say that about his season. My point is that as ugly as it looks right now, I think that at the end of the day, it all comes together. And I think if you talk to George Kittle, he would say that at this time during his contract negotiations, he was just as distressed. Didn't come to the into the public light like Samuels and Ayuk's have, but this is the way. This is what happens. This is kind of the ugliness of these contract negotiations. My advice is don't follow the everyday little kind of chatter and, oh, he did this and he put a picture up on this. Just wait till it's all done. If he gets traded, he gets traded. If he doesn't, he'll sign a deal and it'll likely be right around the start of training camp.
A lot of speculation about Purdy's deal, that it could be record setting. I mean, it seems like all these quarterback deals are. Is he going to get a 50, contract north of $50 million? And if so, that doesn't that mean like 3 or 4 significant players are probably going to have to be sacrificed between now and then?
Yeah, I haven't done the math on, how many players have to be sacrificed. I think some of that's going to come naturally anyway. I mean, does Trent Williams want to play another year? He's talked about, really wanting to make the Pro Bowl this year so that he could be the tackle that has the most Pro Bowls ever. But he hasn't really talked about what happens if he achieves that. My thought is that if Brock Purdy has the same season in 24 that he had in 23, yeah, he gets that number. He hits that 50 million mark. I don't see any other way around it.
Yeah.
But I mean, so many things can happen this year, and I think he's poised. Obviously, he's having a better off season this year than he had last year when it was all about rehab. I mean, he could actually kind of work on his craft this year. So my point is that there are signs that this will be a better season for him than last year.
What are the Niners' biggest needs going into this draft? Do they need a starter? I mean, that sometimes takes precedent. Like, hey, we went for this guy. Why? Well, we need a starter there, in our opinion. Where do they need a starter in their lineup on the All-22?
Yeah, I don't think that that exists. I know a lot of people will point to the offensive line, but just hearing Chris Furster over the years kind of lament how ill prepared some of these rookies are along the offensive line for the NFL. I mean, there's a big discrepancy. Probably the biggest, maybe quarterback is the biggest, but the biggest kind of hurdle that players have to make from college game to NFL game is along the offensive line. So even if you thought, say, right guard is a problem area and that they could use a starter there, it's very hard to see somebody that they pick at 31. Yeah, certainly you could do the Spencer Burford thing where you rotate with a guy, but for week one, beating out John Feliciano, a veteran that they really liked at the end of last year, I think that would be hard to do. If it's Graham Barton, and I don't think it'll be. I don't think he gets that far, but maybe for sure. But I don't. To answer your question, I don't think that there is one position that kind of leaps out.
What do you view as the weakness of the offensive line? I mean, it's very much in flux. I don't know how many more years Trent's going to play. Banks' deal's up soon. Brendel got handled by DJ Reader in that Cincinnati game pretty dramatically. Right guard obviously was a struggle spot, and McKivitz allowed a lot of pressures, I believe, in the postseason. Where obviously Trent is Trent, but outside of Trent, is everybody, and is Banks the replacement for Banks? I mean, what is the weakest link of the offensive line, if we put it that way?
I mean, I think it's the right side. I mean, they've sort of scrimped at right guard since 2017 when Shanahan and Lynch first got here. I can't remember the name of the guy that was the right guard that year, but they've had journeymen usually every year there, and Feliciano kind of fits into that mold. So it's always been right guard. That's where they feel like they can save some money, and that's their philosophy. I don't know if that's going to change. I would say that this year, it's a really good year for offensive tackles. That's not the case usually. They take an offensive tackle early, either with that first pick or their second pick, but do so knowing that that guy is going to apprentice for a season. Maybe he's the swing tackle. Maybe he plays a game if either McKivitz or Trent Williams is hurt. And I think Trent Williams has missed at least one game for something like the last 6 or 7 seasons. So there's a high likelihood that that happens. And then you see what happens in the offseason. And then if Williams does decide to retire, you've got somebody there at least that can compete for that starting job. So I think that's what they're thinking, that probably no offensive tackle that they take is going to be able to beat out McKivitz or Trent Williams, certainly early in the season. And that we're talking really about 2025 when we're talking about when this player starts to play.
More likely to trade up, you think, or more likely to trade back?
I'm starting to think they're more likely to trade back. I mean, just judging by all the guys that they brought in, a lot of kind of second round, mid-second round type of players. I mean, they just went up to Washington. Roger Rosengarten was one of the guys that they worked out up there. He's probably a mid-second, late-second round draft pick, and I think that they probably like him. There's a lot to like there. But it's 31 too early for him. I mean, if they like him, if they think that he's got a future there, if they're sort of resigned to him apprenticing a year, maybe 31 isn't too early. If they have a plan for him to play like that. So that's what I think that their mindset is as far as that position.
Is there, if you were guessing, what players falling would make them trade up? I mean, it's funny, you thought Rosengarten. I was thinking maybe they would trade up for Fatanu, because I kind of think Fatanu is kind of their perfect offensive lineman in that he can play any spot. He's probably ready to play right now. They don't know which spot is going to be their weakness. You probably have to parlay some picks to get up high enough to get him. But man, he looked good at the combine, and he had a great career at Washington. What do you think? Do you think Fatanu is a guy they're eyeing to fall, or is there somebody that you could think of that, man, if they fell, you could envision John and Kyle making a move for?
Yeah, he'd be one. I think Amarius Mims would be another one. If Mims made it into the early 20s, mid 20s, I don't know how much it would take to get up there. Certainly the 31st pick, and then maybe two other mid-round picks. And then if you had Mims, I mean, I just really like the idea of Trent Williams apprenticing somebody like Mims for a year, and then Mims taking over at that point. So I think that would be great. I don't know. They don't seem to be prepared for that scenario. They didn't bring Tyler Guyton, for example, into the facility. I know that they had a formal meeting with him at the combine, but remember the combine these days is just John Lynch and the scouting staff. They don't bring the coaches there. So if you're talking about a young guy like Mims or Tyler Guyton who don't have very many college starts, that's exactly the type of guy that you would bring in for a 30 visit, because you want to know more about him. They just haven't. So it makes me think that they're probably not going to. Now, your guy, Fatanu, they did go up to Washington, and conceivably they saw him as well. And at both Lynch and Furster, you don't really need any more than those two guys. So that to me is a more realistic scenario.
Everybody's got a different mindset with these visits, right? Sometimes you want to, you don't want to waste time. I do think it's an indication of some interest, or at least, hey, some partial interest, but you want a question answered. But what about history? Does history say that that they draft a high percentage of guys that they meet with before the draft, or do they? Is there history that, they don't meet with guys and try to, kind of hide their interest in a certain prospect? What's been their history?
Very much that they meet with the guys that they intend to, or they draft the guys that they've met with, including the official visits. The only first rounder that they didn't have an extensive meeting with, and remember the COVID years kind of make this a little dicey. But outside of the COVID drafts, the only guy that they didn't bring in for a 30 visit who ended up going in the first round is Mike McGlinchey. And that's because he had just a terrific combine interview with everybody, including, the coaches. That was during a period where the coaches actually came in, and they didn't want to kind of reveal to everybody that he was going to be their pick at pick 10. So he's the exception to the rule. Last year, they brought in 5 of the 9 guys that they drafted, and one of the other ones was Jake Moody, and they had a long tryout kicking session with him and the special teams coordinator. So usually they are meeting with all of these guys, or meeting with the bulk of the guys that they end up picking.
Is their D-line better or worse than it was on Super Bowl Sunday? Obviously they lost Armstead, but they did sign Leonard Floyd, Malik Collins, Yatir Gross-Matos, Jordan Elliott. What do you think? Is their line? Do you think if you ask them, do you think they feel like their line's better than it was, or not as good?
Yeah, I think that they'd say it's better. And I think talent-wise, it's probably a wash when you add it all up. But the reason why they didn't want to pay Eric Armstead what he was going to make is because he's missed so many games the last 2 seasons. So you're playing a chunk of the season without Eric Armstead. If you think that the group that you're bringing in is going to be healthy for the most part, I think it's probably a little bit better than what they were. I don't think that Collins is as good as Armstead. I don't think anybody thinks that, but I think they got better on the edge. I think that their depth is probably just as good as it was. I think Gross Matos is going to play inside quite a bit on passing downs, so that their kind of what they call their turbo package is going to be better than it's been in the past. I think that they like what they did. I don't think that precludes them. They brought in a lot of defensive linemen and guys that you would like, Larry. Michael Hall Jr. from Ohio State,
Love
Brandon Dorlus from Oregon, Chris Braswell. I like Chris Braswell a lot. He seems to be he's like the one sort of undersized edge defender, but he's got that kind of power in his hands. I think that he could be a nice pick. He's probably a late second rounder. So they've got some options there, and I think David and I are doing our dueling mock draft that comes out on Monday, and both of us ended up taking a defensive lineman, not the same defensive lineman, but I think with the understanding that they're always looking to bulk up that position, and that at 31, I feel like the 49ers just are going to take the best player that falls to them there. And it doesn't really matter what the position is. And it's not going to be a quarterback. It's not going to be a kicker. It's not going to be a punter. But I think every other spot, not going to be a safety probably, but I think every other spot is in play.
Really, it's an interesting draft because they could go best player available, but they also, are inside their Super Bowl window and they could look to fill needs. To me, if I said to you, based on all your intel, give me one player that you really think is going to be a 49er at the end of the weekend, based on all the intel, all the conversations, all the calling, all the visits, all the, combine, meeting at the Hula Bowl, and all these different things. Factor it all in. Is there one player that, if you had to wager everything you had, he would be a Niner by the end of the weekend in any round? Who would you go with?
Aside from Luke McCaffrey?
Yeah, well, I mean, no, you could go with Luke McCaffrey. In fact, when I asked Christian about Luke McCaffrey, he was like, I really, really want to play with my brother. And I know he's probably expressed that to Lynch.
Oh, yeah.
And now it's just a matter of what round do the Niners go for Luke McCaffrey. I was saying that I could see a team picking him in the late third. I don't think the Niners would take him there. I think he's more of a day 3, round 4, round 5 guy, as far as they're concerned. That would be my guess. Would McCaffrey be your guy?
Yeah, he would be my guy, just because of everything you just said. And yes, McCaffrey has been, every time he bumps into John Lynch during the season, cafeteria before practice, it's always been to sort of not talk up his brother, but I think McCaffrey was very interested in the scouting of it all, and how he's got a unique story. Luke McCaffrey does. It's changing from quarterback to wide receiver, and just the strides that he made. So I did a story on Luke McCaffrey, and everybody I talked to said that, and I guess this isn't breaking news, but that he and Christian McCaffrey think very much alike. They're always kind of pushing themselves to get a little bit better at different things, ultra competitive. And you see that. I mean, I don't think that that's made up stuff. I think that his progress at wide receiver is really impressive. And I mean, they've got these 3 fourth-round picks. I feel like, with one of them, it's going to be Luke McCaffrey. I asked Scott McLuhan. I said, Scott, what round do you see Luke McCaffrey going in? And he said 5 through 7. So if that's correct, and the 49ers are picking at the very end of the 4th round, and the 49ers are worried that other teams have that kind of 5 through 7 round grade on Luke McCaffrey. Yeah, that's when you pick him.
I love your breakdowns with McLuhan. Did you write a piece on this? Because I did not see this.
I talked to him after the 49ers draft, and we go over the picks and what he thought of the picks. So that'll be something that comes maybe in a couple of weeks.
That to me is very revealing because his eye is so keen. I can remember the one draft he really loved, Talanoa Hufanga. I mean, he was all over that. And he's just got a great eye for it. I would say if I was asking myself who's the guy that I could picture them with, I'm having a kid on the show from Utah. He was supposed to be on today, but he's going to be on Tuesday, and that's Sione Vaki. And he's an Antioch kid. He's a running back and a safety. And I talked to his agent, who's kind of a first time agent. He said the Niners have met with him like 6 or 8 times. And he was in town this week for a meeting. And the agent seemed to think very highly that, or with a lot of confidence that he would be a 49er. He's a Bay Area kid, as I said. He went to I'm not sure what high school he went to, but he's from Antioch. So Sione Vaki is a guy that I kind of, if I was wagering just based on what the agent told me, I would say in the need that the Niners have, I could see them going for a safety or even two. I could see a Sione Vaki day 3 pick to the Niners. So that one is what I would wager on. What about Rice and Gore and their connections and Owens? I mean, Owens' kid was at the pro day. Frank Gore Jr. looks more like Frank Gore than almost any player I've ever seen as far as looking like his dad. And then Jerry Rice's kid, Brendan Rice, almost sounds like he didn't want to be a Niner. Like he would prefer to be elsewhere. Do you think they'll show interest in any of those three guys?
Well, first, let me go back to your Sione Vaki one.
Sure.
That's like I said, David and I did a dueling mock draft where we each pick a player for every spot that the 49ers are at. And he was one of the players that we both picked because of what you just described. And I think that the Talanoa Hufanga experience bodes well for Vaki. Vaki did not run a very good 40. I think it was like 4.62 or something like that.
Right.
Hufanga didn't run a very good 40. It was 4.64. But it was, what the 49ers saw on film was different than what both of these guys ran for their 40s. And so I think there's a lot of similarities between those two players. I don't know if Vaki gets picked in the 5th round like Hufanga did, but I think the 49ers see him as a immediate special teams demon and somebody who can come in and provide some depth at safety, and they may need it. I mean, Hufanga is coming off an ACL, and it's not a given that he's going to be ready for the beginning of the season. So that could be an area. They've looked at a number of safeties, and that could be an area where they bring somebody. As far as the legacy players, I would say that Brendan Rice would probably be the most likely, and probably end of the 3rd round. That's when he's projected to go. The 49ers pick at the very end of the 3rd round. He's somebody that McLuhan likes a lot. He's a guy that plays on special teams, throws his weight around, has got good speed. He's a tough guy like his dad. And that's what the 49ers like. That's what they look for. So if they're looking to bulk up that wide receiver room and they want to use their end of 3rd round pick to do it, I think that he would be among the players they'd consider.
Will they draft a quarterback? And if they do, the guy that I really like is this Austin Reed from Western Kentucky. He reminds me an awful lot of Brock Purdy. I'm not saying he is Brock Purdy, but he's a film junkie. He's a 4.0 student. He's a great athlete. He's an incredible competitor. Do you think they'll draft a quarterback?
I don't think so. I mean, they seem to have their quarterback room pretty well stocked. I mean, they could for sure, and they could also bring in somebody after the draft. The problem with they have 3 right now, and the problem is that we saw this last year with the extra quarterback is that there's only so many reps to go around, and usually that 4th quarterback doesn't get any.
Right.
And I know that last year that player did, but that was largely because Brock Purdy was taking every, what was it, 3rd practice off to kind of get his arm right. I don't know if they've got room for that, but yeah, I mean, if they did bring in a rookie, it would be a seventh rounder or an undrafted pick.
Daza says, even if we do extend Brandon Aiyuk, is Kyle Shanahan actually going to utilize him as a number one wide receiver? Kyle seems to think Debo is the number one wide receiver. If they pay Aiyuk big money, do we see him see the ball a lot more in your mind, or maybe more of the same?
Oh, I think it'll be more of the same. I mean, is anybody complaining about his touches and his numbers last year? I thought that they were pretty good.
I mean, he produced an awful lot of receptions, that's for sure.
Yeah, and he came up big in that game against Detroit as well. Yeah, I mean that's up to Brock Purdy more than anybody else, and I think that his rapport with Purdy is pretty good.
Yeah, no question. Two last ones, and we'll let you go. Is there a young player on the roster, Matt, from a previous draft that you think the regime has big plans for? I gotta think that Cam Latu is gonna look a whole lot better this year in camp than last year. It seemed like last year he was thinking too much and he got into his head. I expect him to be quite a bit better. I also kind of expect Jalen Graham to be a real player for them. Is there a young player that you're from a previous draft that you were honing in on or you think is going to make a big step forward this summer?
Yeah, Jalen Graham is a good choice. I mean, he looked really good last summer. He was getting a lot of middle linebacker reps, and they didn't think that he was a middle linebacker when he first came in. They thought he'd be just a Will or a Sam type of player. So he ended up being able to do more for them than they expected, and I think it really kind of showed that he's a smart guy too. I mean, there's a lot of responsibility with that position. He's not Fred Warner, but he's got the Warner height and length, and dropping into coverage and understanding coverages. That's what that position is largely about these days. And he's somebody that played a lot of safety at Purdue. Kind of lined up a little bit everywhere. He played that star position, which is sort of a quasi linebacker, defensive line / nickel spot. So he's got a background in coverages and how coverages work and all that stuff. So yeah, I think he's a good one. Latu is interesting. I mean, they could really use him. They said goodbye to Charlie Warner. Warner was the number 2 tight end last year. They brought in a veteran on a minimal deal. I think that's sort of guarding against Latu kind of sputtering again. But they like Latu because he's strong, should be able to play in line, should be able to be a sixth offensive lineman on some snaps, and he's shown the ability to catch the ball as well. His MO or his path at Alabama was very, very slow start and then caught on a couple of years after he got there. So I think that the 49ers knew that. I think that they weren't expecting much from him last year, but at some point you got to deliver.
Last one, and we appreciate you making the time. There's been some, talk of different veterans that may be dealt during training camp or during the draft. And the one that kind of caught my eye a couple weeks ago was the Niners were connected via CBS report to Budda Baker. And Budda Baker is just such a tremendous player. And yet he makes a lot of money. But the talk is that he is 1 year from free agency and that the price tag may be more like, ridiculously low, like, 5th round pick, 6th round pick. What do you think? Is there a veteran out there that you could see them trading for? Could you see them being in the mix and a trade talks for Budda Baker, who has had some phenomenal battles with George Kittle through the years?
Yeah, I mean, I think Budda Baker would be the guy. I mean, think of what the 49ers have done at that position in recent years. They like having that veteran presence back there. And Budda Baker would be that, and he'd be better than the guys that they've had. So, yeah, that would be a tremendous one. The Cardinals were having a fire sale last year. Cardinals are absolutely starting over.
Yeah.
No
Again.
team is kind of revamping like the Cardinals are,
Yeah.
and certainly were last year. And I think that's right. I mean, I'm not making fun of them. They're going about it the right way. But yeah, you would think that he would be expendable, just given where that organization is.
Maddie, where will you be on draft day? Do you hover in the media room, and what's that experience like? I was down there for all of the season. I'm kind of debating what I want to do. Do I want to be in the media room? Do I want to be here at home? What's the media room draft weekend like down there?
Well, we used to have dollar bets on who the 49ers would take in a given round, but the stick in the muds nowadays don't want that's too rich for their blood. They don't want to get into it. What happened, Larry, is that they got sick of losing all their dollar bills to Matt Barrows because I knew more about the draft. So, but if Larry Kruger were there, another sort of guy who kind of gets deep into it, that might make things more interesting. So if you come by, bring some ones, and we'll see if we can get some action going during the draft.
Do you like it though? I mean, if you, I mean, you're covering it, you're a pro, so you're going to be there, but like, do you feel like your time's well spent there, or do you feel like, you know what, I'm sitting in, and like, what do you sit in the media room and watch it on the TV in the back on the back wall, or where? What
Yeah,
is the? How do
you
you guys watch it?
yeah, exactly as you described it. It's on the TVs, and then when the 49ers make their pick, they usually get that guy on a conference call quickly so that you get have a little bit to write on as far as him. And then Kyle and John will hold a press conference right after the round, assuming they make a pick. So that's why you go down to ask questions about whoever they drafted.
Most importantly, will it be catered?
Oh yeah, catered and well catered. So
Well
yeah,
catered.
yeah.
There you go. That's always that's always the key element. I do notice that there's more people that show up on Wednesday media day because of the catering than show up on Thursday during the season. I wonder if it has anything to do with the catering.
I think it has to do with the catering. And if Brock Purdy started talking on Wednesdays instead of Thursdays, you would have even more people down there.
Oh, I didn't even think about that. Yeah. Brock Purdy, who, by the way, looks jacked. I saw David put out some pictures. Man, Brock Purdy does look like he's, pumping iron. And I wonder if he's getting too big. He looks kind of stiff in some of those pictures. But Maddie, great stuff. Once again, Matt's Draft Crush article is linked in the description. Everybody check it out. If you're not already a member of The Athletic and not getting The Athletic's breakdown, you need to. David and Matt are two of the very best covering the Niners, and they both happen to work for The Athletic. And you guys do some absolutely phenomenal stuff. And then, of course, my third favorite guy is Dane Brugler, and he has an 800-pound or 800-page, he calls it the Beast draft guide, which is spectacular. I mean, I don't even know, Dane Brugler. It's like, and his younger sister was in Girl Scouts, and she actually dropped out of Girl Scouts her in sixth grade because the troop leader had a problem with her. I mean, he's got info that is just almost off-putting.
Yeah, that beast. I think it's something like 400,000 words. And
It's just awesome.
just for comparison, the average American novel is about 65,000 words. So we're talking like 6 or 7 novels worth of information on this draft. And most of these guys won't get drafted.
I know. It's amazing. But Brugler is outstanding, and nobody goes deeper than Dane Brugler. Maddie, great stuff. We'll probably see you down there next week. I'll see you Monday. Are you going to be there Monday for the Lynch breakdown?
Yes, I will be there.
I'm quite, I'm wondering, what kind of question do I even ask? Because like, if you ask a prying question, he doesn't want to answer that. You know what I mean? So it's like, what's a good, can you give me a sample good question on Monday for Lynch that doesn't kind of like say, hey, I'm a rookie and it's my first
I
lynch
would ask
Monday?
questions on everything except for the draft, because he's not going to give you a straight answer on the draft. Their whole
Where
thing.
exactly, John, do you park here at the facility? Something like that, or
First of all, this is mandatory. So the GMs of all these teams have to have a pre-draft press conference. And my joke is always that they write out notes before they go into the room, and their notes say, "Yeah, we could stay put at this pick, we could trade back, or we could trade down." So we're open to all things. That's usually what they end up saying when it comes to the draft. But asking about Brandon Aiyuk and where have you been in touch with Aiyuk? Where is he working out? I think that's going to be one of the big
primary
lines of questioning.
Yeah. What can you tell us about Brandon Aiyuk? All right, Maddie, great stuff. Thanks for stopping by. Thanks to all the sponsors. Thanks to all the people in the chat. Follow this guy at The Athletic. Sign up. Spend the money. I did. It's worth it. The app is my favorite, Maddie. I mean, the app is absolutely fantastic, and it's easy to read, and it's easy to kind of navigate. I really love your guys' app there at The Athletic. I would encourage everybody to sign up and get the app, get The Athletic, and follow Matt and follow Dave. Maddie, thanks again, man. Always good to catch up with you. And the Draft Crush, one of these years, the Niners will draft your Draft Crush.
This could be the year.
And then, will it be like, will Maddie and the Draft Crush maybe go to Disneyland together? Or,
we'll go to Top Golf together, which is
Top Golf. There you go.
Yeah.
All right, for Matt Barrows, I'm Larry Krueger. Thanks for watching the Krug Show, everybody. Peace.
Yeah, never met a man I've been scared of. Careful, you gon' get